Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prize, Chapter 7, The Slug Club. Harry spent a lot of the last week of the holidays pondering the meaning of Malfoy's behavior in Knockturn Alley. What disturbed him most was the satisfied look on Malfoy's face as he had left the shop. Nothing that made Malfoy look that happy could be good news. To his slight annoyance, however, neither Ron nor Hermione seemed quite as curious about Malfoy's activities as he was, or at least they seemed to get bored of discussing it after a few days. "Yes, I've already agreed it was fishy, Harry," said Hermione, a little impatiently. She was sitting on the window sill in Fred and George's room, with her feet on one of the cardboard boxes, and had only grudgingly looked up for her new copy of Advanced Run Translation. "But haven't we agreed there could be a lot of explanations? Maybe he's broken his hand of glory," said Ron vaguely, as he attempted to straighten his broomsticks, bent tired twice. "Remember that she filled up Arm Malfoy's head? But what about when he said, 'Don't forget to keep that one safe'?" asked Harry for the umpteenth time. "That sounded to me like Borgin's got another one of the broken objects and Malfoy's once bought." "Unicorn?" said Ron, now trying to scrape some dirt off his broom handle. "Yes, I do," said Harry. When neither Ron nor Hermione answered, he said, "Malfoy's father is in Azkaban. Don't you think Malfoy would like revenge?" Ron looked up, blinking. "Malfoy revenge? What can he do about it?" "That's my point, I don't know," said Harry, frustrated. "But he's up to something, and I think we should take it seriously. His father's a Death-Eater and..." Harry broke off, his eyes fixed on the window behind Hermione, his mouth open. A startling thought had just occurred to him. "Harry," said Hermione in an anxious voice, "what's wrong?" "Your scar's not hurting again, is it?" asked Ron nervously. "He's a Death-Eater," said Harry slowly. "He's replaced his father as a Death-Eater." There was a silence, then Ron erupted in laughter. "Malfoy? He's 16, Harry. You think you know who would let Malfoy join?" "It seems very unlikely, Harry," said Hermione, in a representative sort of voice. "What makes you think?" "In Madame Malkin's. She didn't touch him, but he yelled and jerked his arm away from her when she went to roll up his sleeve. It was his left arm. He'd been branded with the dark mark." Ron and Hermione looked at each other. "Well," said Ron, sounding thoroughly unconvinced, "I think he just wanted to get out of there, Harry."
He showed Borgin something we couldn't see. Harry pressed unsoberly. Something that seriously scared Borgin. It was the mark, I know it. He was showing Borgin who he was dealing with. You saw how seriously Borgin took him. Ron and Hermione exchanged another look. "I'm not sure, Harry. Yeah, I still don't reckon you know who would let Malfoy join." Annoyed, but absolutely convinced he was right, Harry snatched up a pile of filthy Quidditch ropes and left the room. Miss Weasley had been urging them for days and not to leave their washing and packing until the last moment. On the landing, he bumped into Jiminy, who was returning to her room carrying a pile of freshly laundered clothes. "I wouldn't go in the kitchen just now," she warned him. "There's a lot of plegum around." "I'll be careful not to slip it in," smiled Harry. Sure enough, when he entered the kitchen, it was to find Fleur sitting at the kitchen table in full flow about plans for her wedding to Bill, while Miss Weasley kept watch over a pile of self-peeling sprouts, looking bad-tempered. "Bill and I have almost decided on only two bridesmaids. Ginny and Gabrielle will look very sweet together. I am thinking of pressing them in pale gold. Pink would of course be horrible with Ginny's hair." "Oh, Harry," said Miss Weasley loudly, cutting across Fleur's monologue. "Good, I wanted to explain about the security arrangements for the journey to Hogwarts tomorrow. We've got ministry cars again, and there will be hours waiting for the station.
Is Tom's going to be there? Asked Harry, handing over his Quidditch rings. No, I don't think so. She's been stationed somewhere else from what Archer said. She has let herself go, that Tonks mused Fleer, examining her own stunning reflection in the back of teaspoon. A big mistake, if you ask. Yes, thank you, said Mr. Weasley, tartly cutting across floor again. You would better get on, Harry. I want the trunks ready tonight, if possible, so we don't have the usual last-minute scramble. And in fact, their departure the following morning was smoother than usual. The ministry cars glided up on the front of the burrow to find them waiting. Trunks packed, Hermione's cat, Crookshanks safely enclosed in his traveling basket, and Hedwig, Ron's owl pigeon, and Ginny's new purple pygmy puff Arnold in cages. Au revoir, Harry, said Fleur tautly, kissing him goodbye. Ron hurried forwards, looking hopeful, but Ginny stuck out her foot and Ron fell, sprawling in the dust at Fleur's feet. Furious, red-faced, and dirt-spattered, he hurried into the car without saying goodbye. There was no cheerful Hagrid waiting for them at King's Cross Station. Instead, two grim-faced, bearded owls in dark muggle suits moved forwards the moment the car stopped and, flanking the party, marched them into the station without speaking.
And in fact, their departure the following morning was smoother than usual. The ministry cars glided up to the front of the burrow to find them waiting, trunk packed. Hermione's cat, Crookshanks, safely enclosed in his traveling basket, and Hedwig, Ron's owl, Pigmy and Ginny's new purple pygmy puff are not in cages. Au revoir, Harry, said Fleur's cruelty, kissing him goodbye. Son hurried forwards, looking hopeful, but Ginny stuck out her foot and Ron fell, sprawling in the dust and Fleur's feet. Furious, red-faced, and dirt-spattered, he hurried into the car without saying goodbye. There was no cheerful Hagrid waiting for them at King's Cross Station. Instead, two grim-faced, bearded owls in dark muggle suit moved forwards at the moment the car stopped and, flanking the party, marched them into the station without speaking. Quick, quick, through the barrier, said Mr. Weasley, who seemed a little frustrated by this austere efficiency. Harry had better go first with. She looked inquiringly at one of the owls, who nodded briefly, seized Harry's upper arm, and attempted to steer him towards the barrier between platforms 9 and 10. I can walk, thanks, said Harry, irritable, jerking his arm off the owl's grip. He pushed hip trolley directly the salt barrier, ignoring his silent companion, and found himself, a second later, standing on platform 9 and 3/4, where the Scarlet Hogwarts Express stood belching steam over the crowd. Hermione and the Weasleys joined him within seconds.
Without waiting to consult his green-faced owl, Harry motioned to Ron and Hermione to follow him up the platform, looking for an empty compartment. "We can't, Harry," said Hermione, looking apologetic. Ron and I've got to go to the perfect carriage first and then patrol the corridors for a bit. "Oh yeah, I forgot," said Harry. "You'd better get straight on the train, all of you. You've only got a few minutes to go," said Mrs. Weasley, consulting her watch. "Well, have a lovely term, Ron." "Mr. Weasley, can I have a quick word?" said Harry, making up his mind on the spur of the moment. "Of course," said Mr. Weasley, who looked slightly surprised but followed Harry out of earshot of the others nevertheless. Harry had thought it through carefully and come to the conclusion that if he were to tell anyone, Mr. Weasley would be the right person, firstly, because he worked at the ministry and was therefore in the best position to make further investigation, and secondly, because he thought that there was not too much risk of Mr. Weasley exploding with anger. He could see Mrs. Weasley and the green-faced Arrow casting the pair of them suspicious looks as they moved away. When we were in Diagon Alley, Harry began, but Mr. Weasley forestalled him with a grimace. Am I about to discover where you? Ron and Hermione disappeared too while you were supposed to be in the back room of Fred and George's shop. How did you? Harry, please. You're talking to the man who raised Fred and George. Yeah, all right. We weren't in the back room. Very well, then let's hear the worst. Well, we followed Draco Malfoy. We used my invisibility cloak. Did you have any particular reason for doing so, or was it a mere whim? Because I thought Malfoy was up to something, said Harry, disregarding Mr. Weasley's look of mingled exasperation and amusement. He'd given his mother the slip, and I wanted to know why. Of course you did, said Mr. Weasley, sounding resigned. Well, did you find out why? He went into Boring and Burke's, said Harry, and started bullying the bloke in there, Borgin, to help him fix something. And he said he wanted Borgin to keep something else for him. He made it sound like it was the same kind of thing that needed fixing, like they were a pair. And Harry took a deep breath. There's something else. We saw Malfoy jump out about a mile when Madame Malkin tried to touch his left arm. I think he's been branded with the dark mark. I think he's replaced his father as a Death Eater. Mr. Weasley looked taken aback. After a moment he said, Harry, I doubt whether you know who you would allow a 16-year-old. Does anyone really know what you know who would or wouldn't do? Asked Harry angrily. Mr. Weasley, I'm sorry, but isn't it worth investigating? If Malfoy wants something fixing and he needs to threaten Borgin to get it done, it's probably something dark or dangerous, isn't it? I doubt it, to be honest, Harry, said Mr. Weasley slowly. You see, when Lucius Malfoy was arrested, we raided his house. We took away everything that might have been dangerous. I think you missed something, said Harry stubbornly.